It was a beautiful May day. Karen, a beautiful young woman in a light, elegant pantsuit, walked along the picturesque park alley, holding her 7-year-old daughter's hand. Hayley was a pretty little girl. Her long brown hair fell in soft waves on her shoulders, and her light sundress emphasized her natural olive skin. On her face shone huge eyes of an outstanding turquoise shade. Hayley resembled a beautiful doll. Karen often admired her daughter, and she wasn't alone. Even now passers-by in the park looked at them. Hayley had grown accustomed to the attention. People often suggested they shouldn't stop at one child, since they produced such beautiful girl. Hayley should have a brother, they said. Those who didn't know Karen and Tom's story. Those who knew were, of course, more tactful. They understood. The mention of a second child was like a sharp knife for Karen's heart. What she endured 7 years ago, few could bear. But Karen had to. She had to pull herself together and come back to life. Hayley pulled her through. The girl needed a healthy, sensible mother. So Karen fought her way back. Her daughter saved her, along with Tom. Now, looking at this happy young woman with her beautiful little daughter, no one would guess the tragedy she'd experienced. "Mum, can I buy a doll with this money?" Hayley asked. "And a construction set? Can I buy Lego for girls?" "We'll see." Karen smiled at her animated daughter. Hayley had recently celebrated her birthday, 7 years old. Friends and relatives had given the girl money, and now they were heading to the children's store to choose gifts from the generous guests. Hayley had been looking forward to this day, a weekend when her mother could take her to the supermarket. 7 years. While her daughter's birthday was a huge celebration for Karen, it came with undertones of sadness and longing. After all, on this very day everything had happened, both happiness and misfortune. Tom, too, felt the weight of these memories during their beloved daughter's celebration. They both maintained an appearance of pure happiness, showing only joyful emotions. Hayley didn't need to know anything yet. Later, when the girl was grown, strong and wise, they would tell her, but not now. "Mum, can I ride on that swing?" Hayley pointed to the playground in the middle of the park, where dozens of children frolicked. Karen smiled again. She'd known this would happen. They could never pass this spot without stopping. "Sure, go play. I'll wait for you here on the bench." Happy Hayley rushed to the miraculously empty swings. Karen watched her girl. Hayley moved like a light, graceful butterfly, so fragile, so beautiful, so delicate. No, she couldn't think about it. It was too painful, too hard to remember, even now. To distract herself from sad thoughts, she took out her phone and checked her friends' chat. It was always cheerful there. Karen's friends shared news, sent funny pictures and encouraged each other. "Mum!" Her daughter's voice jolted Karen from her cosy online world. "What is it?" The woman looked anxiously at her girl. Hayley's usually carefree and cheerful eyes now showed fear and confusion. "Mum, there's a boy. He's all alone, though he's still small. He's famished. He asked an elderly man for a bun, but the man yelled and chased him away. I feel sorry for him, Mum. Can we buy him a bun, please?" "Well, show me your boy." Hayley grabbed her mum's hand and pulled her toward the summer stage. "He's hiding behind there. That mean man scared him." Karen expected to see a gypsy or a street child in dirty clothes. Unfortunately, there were many such children. Parents who drink, leaving their children to grow like weeds, starving and getting into trouble. "Here he is." Karen saw a skinny boy, surprisingly well-dressed and about Hayley's age. He sat in the grass, hugging his knees, his back to them, lost in thought. Strange. Karen knew children's fashion well. This supposedly hungry child wore a brand-name T-shirt and expensive denim shorts, the kind sold in stores Karen only visited during major sales. "Hey," Hayley called to the boy. "Don't be afraid, I brought my mum. She won't let that old man bother us." The boy turned around and looked at Karen. She froze. This child had huge eyes of a rare turquoise hue, identical to Haley's. It was Adrian. No, of course this boy couldn't be Adrian, yet he appeared the same. Adrian still visited Karen in her dreams. She knew every feature, and now this same boy from her dreams stood before her. Karen studied him, noting every detail, finding more and more similarities to her daughter. Haley stood nearby, as if for comparison. The children looked like subjects from a Spot the Difference puzzle book. Differences? There weren't many, very few. The boy and girl looked so alike it couldn't be coincidence. "Are you hungry?" Karen finally managed to ask. The boy nodded immediately. He studied Karen with equal interest and surprise, as if trying to remember something. "What's your name, boy?" "Arthur," he answered. Karen had expected to hear a different name, Adrian. The voice of that child sounded identical to the voice of that boy from her dreams, like the voice of her son. Karen was born and grew up in a hard-working but modest family. Her mother worked as a nurse in a polyclinic, her father as a driver. They lived in a small 2-bedroom apartment in a 5-story building. While they never went hungry, they never lived frugally. Karen was always encouraged to strive for a better future. "You'll become an economist, work at a bank, or be a wealthy lady," her mother would dream aloud while looking at her daughter. "It's time for someone in our family to get a higher education and success in life," her father would echo. "Who better than you? You have the brains." And indeed Karen did. Studies came naturally to her. Though she wasn't a straight A student, she was far from struggling. She graduated with A's and B's, performed well on her exams, and ultimately got accepted where she wanted, the Faculty of Finance and Economics at the local university. Her parents were overjoyed. Karen was too, though she'd never felt drawn to economics. She loved working with young children. She would have become a teacher, but her mother discouraged her. "You'll spend your life wiping other people's children's noses. It's a thankless job. Kids are difficult enough, and their parents are worse. No, daughter, choose another profession." So Karen complied, trusting her parents' wisdom. In her second year, at a student disco, Karen met Tom, her future husband. Of course, she didn't know then that this handsome, smiling young man would become her life partner. At that age, Karen had grown aware of her attractive appearance. Tall, slender, with large eyes. But there were more striking girls in her group, like round-faced Allie or Violet with her impressive bust. So Karen was genuinely surprised when this charming young man approached her, and not empty-handed. He presented her with a scarlet rose. Where had he gotten it? He must have dashed to the flower stand across from the club. Such effort was touching in itself. "Hello," the young man said shyly. "I'm Tom. I saw you and, well, you're so beautiful. May I have this dance with you?" Such simple, sincere words. Karen felt shy herself and lowered her eyes. The young man waited for her answer. Her nervousness was apparent. Then Karen looked up at his face and met his gaze, large eyes of an unusual turquoise colour that stood out beautifully against his slightly swarthy complexion. Those eyes! They looked at Karen with genuine admiration. She felt almost dizzy from it all. "Yes, we may have this dance, Tom." Karen smiled and accepted the flower. "The rose is stunning, thank you." "Just like you," he replied, smiling more confidently now. Then he drew Karen close and swept her into the dance. A slow song was playing. After that dance, they left the party together. They walked through the nighttime city, laughing and sharing stories about themselves. They got to know each other well. Tom came from a similar background to Karen. His mother was even a nurse too, and his father worked as a factory foreman. And like Karen's parents, Tom's mother and father dreamed of higher education for their child. "So I'm studying to be an engineer." Tom smiled. "Do you think it's right for you?" "Yes, definitely. I love studying, and I love the practical work even more. I've definitely chosen the right profession." "I don't think I have," Karen admitted, shaking her head. She hadn't told anyone this before. "I think I'd be much happier as a teacher. I prefer children to reports and figures." "I can see that. Your eyes are so—" Tom said seriously, then pulled Karen close and kissed her. They were practically inseparable after that. Karen knew she'd found her soulmate, someone dependable, loving and beloved. Together, everything felt natural and pleasant. They understood each other instinctively, sensing each other's moods, even at a distance. Sometimes they even seemed to read each other's thoughts. At least, that's how it felt to Karen. Tom introduced her to his parents, and her parents met Tom. Both families approved of their children's choice. Everything was going so perfectly, and sometimes it felt too good to be true. By their 3rd year, Tom and Karen married. He was already working part-time at the factory, sometimes taking night shifts. This provided enough money to rent an apartment, while their scholarships covered food. Both Tom and Karen were used to being thrifty, so neither minded their modest lifestyle. It didn't stop them from dreaming of a bright future. They'd graduate, get their diplomas, find good jobs, build careers, become more comfortable financially, and afford more things. These were the newlyweds' plans. They decided not to rush into having children, though both dreamed of a large family with at least 3 kids. But that would come later. First came education, careers, establishing themselves. That's why the news of pregnancy came as a complete surprise to the newlyweds. They hadn't intended to become parents so soon. Both were barely past 20. But it happened. "What should we do?" Karen asked her husband, though she already knew his answer. "What do you mean? What? We'll have the baby, raise it and love it," smiled Tom, hugging his young wife. "I was already happy, and now I'll be twice as happy." The pregnancy proved difficult. In the early stages, Karen suffered from severe morning sickness. Already naturally slim, Karen became terribly thin. Tom worried about his wife. He prepared special dishes for her, but she couldn't bear to look at them. Tom tried everything to please her, but nothing worked. Karen was wasting away before his eyes. Her husband was eager to accompany her to every appointment at the women's clinic. "Don't bother," Karen protested. "I can get there myself. You should rest. You have an evening shift." "Of course you can't go alone. A breeze might blow you away," Tom joked. "You're so thin that even a slight draught would do it." The doctors said such severe morning sickness wasn't normal, and soon the cause of her poor health was quickly discovered. Karen was carrying twins. A slight, young woman, pregnant with 2 babies. No wonder her body was struggling with such intense hormonal changes and physical demands. Twins. Karen nearly fell off the examination table when the ultrasound doctor shared the news. Her first reaction was joy. The girl felt happy, as if she had won the lottery. She would have 2 children at once. What a miracle! Then came the fear. Carrying twins would be hard, and also, what about managing 2 babies at once? What if they both cry while Karen is alone with them? And the money? They hadn't planned for children yet precisely because of their tight finances, and now they would have 2. The expenses would double. However, Tom, hearing about the twins, simply rejoiced, sincerely, without fears or worries. "We've wanted many children, and now we'll have 2 at once. We'll be fine. Everything will work out." His optimism infected Karen, and she understood clearly. Together they would manage. Karen received vitamin prescriptions and hormone treatments, and her condition improved. Tom treated her like a crystal vase, and Karen embraced her position fully. She ordered her favourite dishes and stopped fussing with cleaning. When else would she have such a chance to relax? Her fears disappeared. Both sets of grandparents promised to help with the babies, letting the new mother learn gradually. They even coordinated their vacations to ensure someone would always be available. The day of the ultrasound, when they would learn the baby's sex, became a family celebration. The medical centre was packed with both future grandmothers and Tom and Karen. The parents-to-be watched the screen, mesmerised by the tiny human beings. "They're beautiful," Karen said. "Yes," agreed the calm doctor. "I can definitely see that. Really beautiful kids, and surprisingly healthy. It's rare to find such perfect examples, like from a textbook. No abnormalities at all." Tom and Karen exchanged glances. Their babies were healthy. That was paramount. "But who are they?" Tom asked eagerly. "Boys? Girls?" "You're lucky here too," the sonographer smiled. "You have royal twins." "How's that?" the parents-to-be asked in unison. "We're hardly royal blood," Tom joked. "Dance, Mummy and Daddy. You have a boy and a girl. A complete set. Not everyone is so fortunate. If you knew what dramas unfold on this couch when parents learn the wrong gender, but you've got one of each." "Yay!" Tom exclaimed. "Is everything all right?" "Never better," replied the doctor. Tom and Karen easily chose names. Haley for the girl, honouring a great-grandmother, and Adrian for the boy, after Tom's beloved grandfather. After the ultrasound, their joyful anticipation grew. It felt as if they had already met their children. Karen began buying blue and pink items, slowly preparing the nursery. Her belly grew rapidly after that memorable ultrasound. Being naturally thin, Karen found it challenging to carry such weight, but she didn't complain. It came with having twins. Tom took an extra part-time job to save for necessities. Clothes, cribs and a twin stroller, none of which came cheap. There came an unwelcome diagnosis. Risk of premature birth. "This often happens with twins," the doctor explained, "especially with a young, thin mother. The key is to maintain the pregnancy until at least the 35th week. By then, the babies are nearly fully developed. They'll be fine." Karen was admitted to the hospital for observation. There, Karen was treated by an experienced doctor, Dr. Megan West, a well-groomed, calm woman in her 40s, with attentive but notably sad eyes. Karen had always noticed such details since childhood. Dr. West, known as an excellent specialist, prescribed effective therapy. The stomach pains ceased, and the threat of early labour was controlled. Still, she advised Karen to rest extensively and avoid lifting anything heavy. "Be careful, rest, think of your babies," Dr. West would say with a lip-only smile, her eyes retaining their sadness. Karen grew accustomed to this hidden melancholy in her doctor's gaze, though initially it had frightened her, making her worry something might be wrong with her or the babies. Tom visited the hospital almost every day. He shared the news with Karen and showed her pictures of the renovation in their apartment. Karen gazed at the pictures of the nursery with joy. It was beautiful and cosy. 2 cribs stood against the wall, covered with lovely linens. There was a dresser with a changing table, a laundry basket shaped like a toy rabbit, and a nightlight that projected stars onto the ceiling. Tom had thought of every detail. It was touching and heartwarming. "I want to go home soon," Karen said tearfully, looking at the beautiful nursery on her husband's smartphone. "No need to hurry," he smiled. "Let everything happen at the right time. The babies aren't ready yet." "I'm so tired of lying here. Every day is the same. I miss you very much." "I miss you too, dear. I promise we'll have lots of fun soon." Tom laughed. "Get some rest for now." "You're right," Karen smiled. Tom always knew how to lift her spirits. But despite the doctor's best efforts under Dr. West's leadership, and despite Karen's careful adherence to their instructions, labour began early, very early. When Karen's water suddenly broke, terror gripped her. Her vision darkened. She knew exactly what this meant. There's no stopping the labour now, and the babies aren't mature enough. They're not ready. Fortunately, Dr. West was on duty. They took Karen on a gurney to the delivery room. "What will happen now?" Karen cried. "The labour is starting. It's all right. They're viable now. Pull yourself together." What followed were hours of fear and pain. Soon, only pain remained. Karen doubled over as dark spots flashed before her eyes, and dizziness overwhelmed her. She wished it would end quickly. At one point, the pain became so intense that Karen didn't even care what would happen to her children. She just wanted the agony to stop. Dr. West periodically checked on Karen, examining her, offering praise and encouragement. She was simultaneously handling other births. The midwives rushed between labouring mothers equally busy. Fear gripped Karen. She worried that when the crucial moment came, no one would be there. During each brief examination, Dr. West would say, "It wasn't time yet." "The cervix isn't fully dilated. You must be patient." Karen couldn't imagine enduring several more hours. Finally, after examining Karen, Dr. West smiled gently. "Ready to give birth? Now, you'll need to work a bit harder. Listen carefully and follow my instructions." Karen obeyed, following Dr. West's every direction. The doctor's calm confidence was reassuring. Karen trusted her completely. With Dr. West by her side, Karen felt everything would be fine. She barely noticed when 2 more doctors, neonatologists, entered the room. They would need to attend to the premature twins. Adrian was born first, tiny and red. He announced his arrival with a powerful cry. "What a great boy!" the midwife smiled. "Amazing!" exclaimed one neonatologist while examining him. "I haven't seen such a strong, premature baby in ages. A real fighter." "Don't celebrate too soon," Dr. West cautioned. "The gestational age is very low. Don't get ahead of yourselves. And Karen, you still need to deliver your daughter." Karen heard the remarks about her firstborn, how healthy and strong he was. His loud, demanding cry reassured her. He was strong. He would survive. What joy! Now for her daughter. Haley arrived after her brother, notably smaller than Adrian, and purplish rather than red. Karen waited to hear her daughter cry alongside her son, but Haley remained silent. The neonatologists worked on her at a separate table, while Dr. West attended to Karen. "What's wrong? Why isn't she crying?" From her position, Karen struggled to see her baby. "Is she alive?" "We're taking her to intensive care," one neonatologist said sharply, wrapping the tiny bundle in a towel before rushing out. Karen noticed how small the bundle looked in his hands. "I'm taking the boy to intensive care too," said the second doctor. "Being premature, he needs observation." "Dr. West, what's wrong with my girl?" Karen asked, panic rising in her voice. "We don't know yet," Dr. West replied tersely, looking more tired and sadder than usual. "The doctors will care for them. They're very premature. Anything could happen, but we'll do everything possible." "The boy is healthy and strong," Karen insisted. "They said how strong he was. Please, save my little girl." "The doctors will do everything possible for both of them," Dr. West repeated, then turned to the midwife. "Finish here. I have 2 more women in labour waiting." Karen didn't know how she fell asleep. Exhaustion must have overtaken her. Anxious thoughts and tears had plagued her. Her heart ached for her tiny daughter. She felt less worried about her son, who had seemed so robust at birth. His strong cry had reassured her about his lungs. But little Hayley, Karen drifted into darkness, temporarily escaping her worried thoughts. She awoke a few hours later. Remembering everything from the previous day, she pressed the call button. Dr. West came in after a short wait. She was standing near Karen's bed, giving her an odd look filled with sadness, sympathy and something else. Was it guilt? "What's wrong with my girl?" Karen asked immediately. "She hadn't cried at birth, but she had survived, right?" Dr. West nodded. "She was born fragile. She's in intensive care on a ventilator, but the prognosis is good." Karen exhaled in relief. Hayley had made it. Everything would be fine. It would take time to heal, but they could manage. "Karen, but with your boy," Dr. West started. But wasn't he all right?" Karen hadn't expected this. "He was fine at first. Premature babies can be unpredictable. He stopped breathing. We tried to save him, but..." Dr. West gestured helplessly and lowered her eyes. Darkness engulfed Karen. She later learned she had lost consciousness. The truth was so terrible that her mother fainted. "Oh, you've come to your senses," said an elderly woman in a white coat. The woman recognized her. It was the same midwife who had been present at the birth of her children. "I can't believe it," she whispered. "I understand, sweetheart," the midwife said, sitting down on the edge of her bed. "I was surprised myself. I've seen your boy. He's good, strong, sound, the kind that clings to life. But it happens with premature babies." "I'm used to having 2 of them. How can that be?" "There will be 2. How old are you? It could be 3 later. You should be happy that they saved your daughter. The girl was on the edge, but she pulled through. Good girl. She's going to be okay now." "Can I see her?" "I'll bring her out a little later. We can't take her out of the incubator yet. You'll see her when you're up and about." "Can I see the boy?" "Oh, girl, don't. Why tear your heart out? You're still sick and you don't need to." Karen stayed in the hospital for a few more weeks. The young mother honestly tried to follow the midwife's advice, to rejoice in her living daughter, not to grieve for her son. But she couldn't help it. It was as if someone had cut off a part of her heart. Cut off and taken away. Karen didn't feel whole anymore. She was missing something. It was always missing. Hayley recovered quickly, gaining weight well. The care of the baby, the closeness, all this, of course, brought comfort. Karen even began to smile. It's impossible not to smile when such turquoise eyes, like Hayley's, look at you so attentively and trustingly. Adrian was buried without Karen. She never saw her boy, because Dr. West wouldn't allow her to leave the hospital. "You can't go. You're very weak. You have to be under doctor's supervision. What if you start bleeding? I won't sign the authorization. Don't even ask. Think of your daughter." Karen couldn't bear to imagine how her husband coped with grief. He single-handedly organized the funeral, removed the extra crib from the nursery, hastily sold the stroller for twins they'd recently struggled to obtain. Of course it was hard for him, terribly hard, but he stayed cheerful in front of his wife. And Adrian? He came to Karen in dreams the first night after the tragedy. The woman immediately recognized him, though she'd only glimpsed her son for a moment in the delivery room, a beautiful baby with wonderful round cheeks and very intelligent eyes, bright turquoise, like his father and sister. Then came the discharge, solemn despite everything. There were flowers and balloons and pictures. The relatives were present too, forcing smiles and trying not to show their true feelings. Karen tried not to think about how there should have been 2 children. It didn't work out that way. Time passed, and Hayley grew up. Grandparents on both sides helped tremendously with their granddaughter. The young parents finished their studies, got their diplomas, then found jobs. Karen was hired as an accountant at a travel agent, and Tom became an engineer at the same factory where his father worked and where he himself had worked part-time as a student. At first, their wages were modest, but things improved. Tom was appointed head of the engineering department. Soon the family could buy their own apartment, with a mortgage, but still, it was a spacious 3-bedroom in the city centre. "We will have more children. We need lots of space," Tom smiled, and Karen remained silent. She now always kept quiet when Tom talked about children. They no longer had the complete understanding they'd had before. The spouses experienced the tragedy differently. Tom came to terms with time, almost recovered from grief. He hadn't forgotten Adrian, no, but he dreamed of next children and looked to the future. But Karen was afraid, terribly afraid of history repeating itself. Besides, she dreamed about Adrian. Often, almost every night. Most surprisingly, he didn't remain an infant in these dreams, not the tiny boy whom Karen had glimpsed just once. No, Adrian grew up and changed alongside his little sister. When Hayley was 3, he was a serious, inquisitive little boy, swarthy, with big bright eyes and a cap of brown, slightly curly hair. When Hayley was 5, Adrian was grown into a tall, thin boy, wiggly and mischievous. Karen initially told Tom about her dreams, and not just Tom, parents, friends, colleagues. She shared these strange dreams with many, but people all reacted the same way. "Don't tear your heart out. Let him go," her mother urged. "Karen, enough already. It's time to move on with our lives," Tom pleaded. "Listen, you could go crazy like this." Her best friend shook her head anxiously. And no one understood that these dreams didn't hurt Karen. On the contrary, when she saw the boy, warmth filled her heart. Somehow she felt certain that this child had his own life, pleasant, apparently full and bright. These thoughts brought her comfort. And now, behind this summer scene, in the tall grass, Karen saw that very boy from her dreams, alive. Hayley held his hand, stroked his shoulder encouragingly, and there he stood, so thin, so taut, like a stretched string. It seemed one careless moment and the boy would run away. Somehow Karen knew he was a fast runner. Next to him, Hayley looked so natural and right. It seemed here was the missing fragment. A fragile, beautiful girl and a strong, handsome boy, the complete set. But this little guy's name was Arthur, not Adrian. "So, Arthur, are you hungry?" Karen asked. "Yes, to be honest." "Mum will buy us buns," Hayley told him. Then her eyes lit up with a new idea. "Mum, could you please take us both to a cafe? I don't need presents. Let's go to a cafe with Arthur instead." "Why not? That's a great idea," Karen agreed. She thought that in a cafe, in a relaxed atmosphere, the child would open up and tell more about himself, and she didn't believe this was just coincidence. Strangers couldn't be as similar to each other as Arthur and Hayley were. "Megan, there's a shipment coming from the warehouse. Be at receiving, okay?" Megan sighed, tossed her unsmoked cigarette in the trash, and hurried to the sales room. She had been working here as a saleswoman for almost a year. The work was exhausting and thankless. Sometimes customers were rude, sometimes shortage of money occurred in the cashier, and the salary was meagre. Megan had always dreamed of being a doctor, of saving lives and healing people. She'd pursued her dreams for years, first excelling in school, then long years of medical studies, and finally earning her diploma. Megan chose obstetrics and gynecology as her speciality. During her practice at a maternity hospital, she fell in love with the profession. It was a wonderful miracle to welcome new lives. The moment when you realized everything had ended well brought indescribable feelings. The world seemed brighter, as if wings had sprouted from your back. It was always like that. The impressions never faded or dulled. That's what made it so amazing. Megan loved that feeling. She loved seeing tears of joy in new mothers' eyes, hearing the first triumphant cry of a new person entering this world. Of course, an obstetrician-gynecologist faces various challenges, including difficult births and even tragedies. But even then, especially then, a qualified doctor is essential. Megan devoted herself completely to her work, day and night, at the clinic. She attended countless births. Though she couldn't remember all her babies, she remembered many of them. Sometimes only Megan's intuition and skillful hands saved newborns from serious birth trauma. Time flew relentlessly. At nearly 40, Megan had never found a family of her own. Between studies, advanced training courses and working from dawn till dusk, when would she have? But now she yearned to experience the joy of motherhood. There was no suitable father candidates around, so one day Megan went to a bar where she met a handsome tall man, about 7 years her junior. The perfect candidate for fatherhood. They had a passionate affair. Megan felt no deep emotions for this man. She wanted only a child. But the desired pregnancy didn't happen. Megan got examined. She'd never considered that something might be wrong with her fertility, but the tests revealed serious problems that practically ruled out natural motherhood, so she opted for IVF with donor material. This seemed even better. Her child would be hers alone, with no father to claim rights to the baby. Success didn't come immediately. It took several attempts. During this quest for motherhood, Megan discovered her interest in reproductive medicine. Many women struggled with conception, and Megan could help fulfill their dreams. When her pregnancy finally happened, she was overjoyed. Learning she was expecting a girl made her even happier. Raising a boy alone had seemed daunting, but a girl, that felt natural and familiar. Abby arrived slightly premature. Megan wasn't concerned, knowing from experience that even earlier babies thrived. During maternity leave, she studied reproductive medicine, taking courses and gaining practice. Their clinic hadn't yet had such a specialist. Her bosses supported her ambition. Megan returned to work when Abby was barely a year old. Early, but typical in medical circles. As a single mother, she needed the income and could rely only on herself. Everything seemed to be unfolding according to plan. But when her beloved daughter turned 2, Abby had her first attack. The girl screamed, writhing in her terrified mother's arms. Megan immediately called an ambulance. Though paramedics arrived quickly, each minute of waiting felt eternal. Watching her daughter's agony was unbearable. At the hospital, they examined Abby thoroughly. The verdict was devastating. A serious kidney condition. It was a congenital pathology that had developed over time, undetected by ultrasounds. Abby needed expensive, lifelong treatment. Megan despaired. Abby's medications cost a fortune. While they could apply to charity funds, those would cover only part of the expenses. The bulk would fall on her shoulders. That's when her new profession proved valuable. Reproductive medicine was lucrative, especially with certain tactics, like frightening desperate would-be mothers with complications and charging for supposedly necessary treatments. Megan took this risky path. She could be exposed at any moment. Yet she continued, all for Abby's sake. Now she regretted using an anonymous donor. The father might have helped financially, perhaps even donated a kidney. Megan wasn't a match for Abby. She'd been tested multiple times. The hospital's waiting list was discouragingly long. At best, Abby might receive a kidney after reaching adulthood, if she lived that long. Her rare blood type, inherited from her unknown father, complicated matters further. Surgery abroad offered another option. They'd find a donor quickly and provide excellent care, but at an astronomical cost. The quoted sum left Megan reeling. Even selling her apartment and car while taking loans wouldn't cover half. So she steeled herself and began extracting money from her rich patients. She performed her work impeccably. Taking on the most challenging cases, she helped infertile women become mothers. Megan justified the inflated prices by focusing on the happiness she brought these families. Besides, her clients were wealthy. The truly needy couldn't afford their centre anyway. And it was all for Abby. The girl grew different from other children. The disease took its toll. Thin and pale, she tired quickly and had few friends. Who would play with someone who couldn't climb trees or run around? At 7, her condition worsened dramatically. Her failing kidneys couldn't function even with the expensive medications Megan provided. Abby moved from a regular hospital ward to intensive care. Megan was distraught but had to keep working. She couldn't lose her income. Abby needed even more expensive treatments now. "Only surgery will save your daughter," Abby's doctor said. "Or a miracle. You're my colleague, you know miracles happen." Megan nodded. She had witnessed miracles, but such cases were rare, and she couldn't rely on miracles for her only child. And then she had a chance to save Abby, because she could get the money. At this crucial moment, Megan began treating an unusual patient, Stacy. Tall, statuesque, striking, always elegantly dressed and perfectly made up, this attention-seeking lady didn't seem desperate to conceive. Megan was surprised when she first appeared in her office. Stacy proved even more surprising. She strode confidently to Megan's desk, sat down, crossed her legs, and declared, "I need a child from my husband by any means. He's dead. I need his heir. A boy, preferably. You can settle it, right? I'll pay, of course." Megan assumed Stacy had loved her husband deeply, wanted to preserve his memory through a child who might share his features. That explained the preference for a boy. Sons often resembled their fathers. But as their conversation continued, the truth emerged as something quite different. Stacy wanted to have her deceased husband's child, not out of unexpressed feelings for him, but to secure inheritance. All of her husband's property was in his mother's name. This arrangement had been made for safety reasons, something about competitors and taxes, though Stacy never looked too deeply into it. Her mother-in-law considered Stacy an outsider and had never liked her, so Stacy lied to her, claiming she was expecting her son's child. The elderly woman's demeanour changed immediately, much to Stacy's cynical amusement. She even started calling Stacy daughter, overjoyed that her son would leave behind an heir. "She promised to sign everything over to me once her grandson is born," Stacy explained. "The problem is I'm not actually pregnant. That's why I'm here." "Why not conceive naturally and present the child to your mother-in-law?" "What if he doesn't look like my husband?" "She's clever. She'll demand a DNA test. So I need IVF. They collected my husband's biomaterial before his treatment, when he was sick. So I have everything I need, and I'm going to have my husband's baby after his death. As creepy as that sounds." Indeed, it did sound creepy, Megan thought. She was reluctant to take this case, but Stacy offered a substantial reward if everything worked out. and Megan desperately needed the money for Abby, so she accepted. Stacey became pregnant on the third attempt. It was their final chance. Megan had feared it wouldn't implant, meaning she'd lose Stacey's payment. But it succeeded. However, Stacey refused to follow medical recommendations. Megan sensed that the woman hated the baby inside her. Yet unborn, he restricted her favourite activities, travel and parties. "I feel like a bloated barrel," Stacey would complain to Megan. "I can't wait for him to be born. I'm so fed up." Megan remained silent. Stacey irritated her and provoked dislike. Her constant complaints and, more importantly, her attitude toward the child she carried troubled Megan. She saw none of the love or concern that expectant mothers typically feel for their children. Stacey viewed her son purely as a means to wealth. This tiny human was merely a tool. This frightened Megan, though she carefully hid her feelings from her wealthy patient, maintaining a polite smile and showing friendly interest. The stakes were too high. If Stacey carried the pregnancy to term and delivered this baby, Megan would receive enough money for Abby's surgery. A foundation had raised part of the sum for the girl's treatment, but the collection wasn't complete. Stacey's fee would cover the remaining amount. Abby would be healthy. For this, Megan would endure anything, let alone an unpleasant patient's whims. Meanwhile, Stacey's pregnancy progressed poorly. This wasn't surprising given her attitude. Though Megan tried to improve her patient's outlook, Stacey maintained her cold feelings towards the baby. Children, even unborn ones, sense everything. Megan had witnessed this repeatedly in her practice. Stacey remained completely indifferent to her son, a human being, a person. She had never loved her husband either. Megan realized this quickly through their many conversations. Stacey freely shared details of her life with her doctor. Her husband had disgusted her. She felt almost relieved when he died, dreaming of finally living life on her own, with his money, of course. Then came the surprise. Everything was in his mother's name. The mother-in-law, unlike her son, had clearly seen through her daughter-in-law's attitude. She set her terms: a grandson, in exchange for the inheritance. The pregnancy tormented Stacey. First morning sickness, then abdominal pain, back problems. The children meant nothing to her except as a path to wealth. Megan didn't like the latest ultrasound results. Everything indicated possible premature labour. Stacey lay on the examination couch, complaining as usual about her fate and this difficult situation. She portrayed herself as a hero, while Megan listened, distracted. The situation had become serious, and the pregnancy was at risk. "Listen, Stacey, you'll need to stay in the hospital for observation and treatment. You must avoid moving around too much right now." "What do you mean, hospital?" Stacey protested. "I'm meeting friends at a restaurant tonight for a birthday party. Well-known artists are performing." "You're at risk for premature labour. The baby's lungs aren't fully developed and he's already behind in growth due to hypoxia." "You can't leave." Stacey stammered excuses, complained about her fate, and even blamed the child for deliberately causing trouble. Megan could barely contain herself. But she couldn't risk damaging her relationship with Stacey. She might withhold the agreed payment. They had an unofficial arrangement. Megan would receive a substantial bonus for concealing certain details about the pregnancy. She knew the risks, but also knew why she took them. She couldn't let her emotions ruin her daughter's future now. She was a professional, after all. When Megan next checked on Stacey several days after her hospital admission, she saw that despite her best efforts to maintain the pregnancy, complications arose. Labour began dangerously early. The experienced doctor knew that saving such a premature baby, especially in this condition, was unlikely. There was no way to stop the labour now. With that, her hopes for Abby's surgery vanished. It was all for nothing. The hours of Stacey's exhortation, the paperwork's shenanigans, and the colossal work to save this precious pregnancy. Anger and despair consumed Megan as she walked up to Stacey's labour room. Seeing the cranky patient in such a pitiful state, Megan felt pity for her for the first time. Pain, wild, merciless pain, was now twisting the woman in half. Most likely, all these efforts were in vain. Stacey's baby would unlikely survive, but it was better for Stacey not to know that yet. Megan examined Stacey, calmly instructing her what to do and how to behave. The woman, surprisingly, obeyed without protest. Megan watched as her plans and hopes crumbled. Tears welled in her eyes. How else could she help her daughter? What could she do? Where would she get the money? Just the other day, Abby had another attack in the intensive care unit, despite the heavy drugs. The medication wasn't working anymore. Surgery was urgently needed. Megan had hoped they just needed to wait another month or so. Stacey's child would be born. She would get the money, pay for the operation. But now, what was left to wait for? A miracle, as Abby's doctor had suggested. "Are you crying?" Stacey asked, surprised. The question jolted Megan back to reality. Yes, tears had formed in her eyes. "Why?" Stacey pressed. "Did something happen? With the child or me?" There it was, Stacey's characteristic selfishness. She believed the world revolved around her. "No, you're imagining things." Megan shook her head. "I just didn't sleep well today. Don't worry, I'll do everything possible to ensure you and your baby are all right." "Of course you will. It's in your best interest." Stacey smirked during a brief respite between contractions. Just then a midwife rushed into the labour room. "Dr. West, in the second labour room. A girl with twins has gone into labour." "Let Dr. Peterson handle her. Can't you see I'm busy here?" "But yours won't deliver for a while yet," the midwife reasoned. "And it's already starting there. Dr. Peterson can't leave her current delivery either." "Stacey, you still have a small opening," Megan told her patient. "I must step away, but I'll return as soon as I'm free." In the second labour room, everything was approaching the final stage. The mother was very young, carrying twins. She was so fragile and thin, it seemed ridiculous that she had carried her babies to term, especially with such a slight build. Megan delivered the boy first. Her experienced eye immediately recognised a healthy newborn. Proper physique, good skin colour, strong cry. Though premature, he was sturdy. Not only would he survive, but he'd probably grow into a handsome athletic boy, perhaps even a champion. Megan couldn't suppress a smile looking at this robust baby. Then a thought struck her. This child was premature. So was Stacey's son. Both boys. If something happened to Stacey's baby during delivery, and that seemed very likely, she could switch the infants. No one would notice. No one would suspect. The midwife and neonatologists began praising the baby effusively. Megan cut them short. Who knows, maybe this plan forming in her will be proceeded. She wouldn't let them show the boy to his mother. That thin girl now resting on the couch. Mothers have instincts. She might recognise him later if she saw him with Stacey. "She can admire her son later," Megan said firmly. "She still needs to deliver the second child." A girl followed the boy, much weaker. Megan could tell she had good chances of survival. The girl went to intensive care, the boy to the nursery. Their mother fell asleep, exhausted from stress, pain and blood loss. After finishing in the second labour room, Megan hurried back to Stacey, arriving just as active labour began. Megan prayed silently that Stacey's son would be strong enough. Ultrasounds could be wrong. It happened often enough. Of course, Megan didn't want to switch the babies. It wasn't just a serious crime that could lead to imprisonment if discovered. It was also morally devastating. How could one live with such a mental burden? Stacy's baby emerged very weak, with livid skin and swelling. At least his weight matched the twin boys. A fortunate coincidence that would raise fewer questions among staff. Megan could see the infant was unlikely to survive. He seemed too weak-willed, as if refusing to stay in this world. No wonder. The poor thing knew from the start that his mother didn't truly want him. Megan carefully wrapped him in a diaper. The neonatologist reached for the baby, saying, "I'll take him to intensive care." Megan shook her head. "I'll handle this. Go to the 3rd labour room. They need you there. The last ultrasound showed fetal abnormalities." "What's wrong with him?" Stacy raised herself on an elbow. "Why isn't he crying? Is he dead?" "He's alive," Megan answered hesitantly, "but very weak." "Save him!" Stacy shouted. "Save this boy, or neither of us gets paid. I won't let this agony be for nothing." Megan nodded, realizing her mistake. She'd thought the baby was alive, but he'd been born already gone. Stacy couldn't know that. Not yet. Moving on autopilot, Megan took advantage of the multiple deliveries in progress. She rushed Stacy's baby to intensive care, removed the twin boy from his incubator, and placed Stacy's silent, cold infant there instead. Then she placed the healthy child in an empty incubator, ironically next to his sister. The siblings looked remarkably alike. Though most newborns seem identical to the untrained eye, Megan saw their differences clearly. These twins would grow to be beautiful, mirror images of each other, though they could have been a wonderful family. But for now, they would share the intensive care unit just this once, before going to different homes. When Karen, the young mother, learned about her son's death, she became hysterical, as expected, wailing, sobbing, refusing to believe it. Megan calmed her, though her heart ached watching the woman's suffering. She consoled herself with the thought that Karen was young. She could have more children if she wished. For Megan, this was her last chance to save her daughter. Abby had no other options. The staff didn't notice the switch. Of course, they were surprised that a seemingly strong baby did not survive, but this was not uncommon with premature babies. Everyone was happy for Stacy's baby. They had seen the boy nearly dead, yet somehow he survived and pulled through. Such miraculous recoveries had happened before at the medical centre. Stacy looked triumphant. "We did it!" she rejoiced. "Dr. West, you'll get everything once my mother-in-law signs over the inheritance to me and my son, as agreed." Megan smiled too, though none of them knew the emotional toll it took on her to maintain her composure. Time passed. Karen and her daughter were discharged. The young mother was still grieving her loss from the time in the hospital. Megan could hardly bear to look into her pain-filled eyes. Even her husband, young and handsome, appeared dejected, despite trying to stay strong. It was Megan, their trusted doctor, who had brought sorrow to this family. Stacy's discharge was celebratory. Her mother-in-law arranged an elaborate welcome for her grandson with balloons, flowers, and entertainers. Megan received a generous envelope of money, a heartfelt thank you from a joyful grandmother. It was understandable. She thought she had lost her son forever, and now she had a piece of him back. Of course, no one suspected this baby was actually a stranger to them. The money from Stacy's mother-in-law went straight toward arranging sick Abby's treatment abroad. Abby's condition had become critical. True to her word, Stacy transferred the agreed payment to Megan once she received her inheritance. Megan immediately arranged for Abby's surgery and prepared for their journey. The operation was successful. Abby recovered quickly, and the terrible attacks ceased. Colour returned to her pale skin, her cheeks grew rosy, and her vitality returned. Soon she was walking through the hospital courtyard with her mother, talking and laughing. Megan could hardly believe her happiness. Her daughter was alive and healthy. Soon Abby would be just like other children her age. She would attend school and pursue her dream of drawing, perhaps even try sports or dancing, whatever she wished. In the midst of this joy and relief, Megan almost stopped blaming herself for the switch. Sometimes she convinced herself she had done everyone a favour. The young mother who had twins. How could she manage 2 babies? She was barely more than a child herself, and Megan could tell their family struggled financially. They could try for another child when they became more stable. And Stacey? She got what she wanted, her inheritance and a healthy, handsome son. Her mother-in-law was overjoyed, doting on her grandson. What did it matter if he wasn't truly hers? Everyone seemed happy. The boy had landed in a wealthy family. Stacey gave him everything: toys, travel, enrichment. He was living a beautiful life. Megan doubted he would have had such opportunities with his birth family. And what could his student parents give? Yet there were times when Megan despised herself for what she'd done. Guilt tormented her through the years. Even seeing her healthy daughter couldn't always ease her conscience, though she knew she would make the same choice if given another chance. Then, nearly 6 years after the incident, everything unravelled, accidentally. Stacey's mother-in-law decided to have the family undergo a new haematology test. It revealed that her beloved grandson had an impossible blood type for their family. This raised suspicions, leading her to demand a DNA test. The case didn't become public, only because Stacey's influential mother-in-law wanted to avoid scandal. Still, she ensured everyone involved faced consequences. Megan lost her position at the medical centre and her medical licence. She considered this fair, having questioned her right to practice medicine after what she'd done. Stacey also lost a lot. While her mother-in-law let her keep the house and car, she lost her monthly allowance and some property. Now the woman complained about being left with someone else's child and no means of support, though this was an exaggeration, because Megan and Abby were the ones who truly struggled financially. Megan avoided learning about how Stacey managed after revealing the truth. She had accepted raising someone else's son. Had she accepted raising someone else's son? Had she found new income? Megan preferred to distance herself from the whole situation. She found work as a store clerk, though sleep eluded her because of her remorse. Abby remained her only solace. Yes, money was tight, and Megan carried moral anguish, but at least Abby was alive, healthy and free from those terrible attacks. Sometimes Megan wanted to contact Stacey to check on her son's welfare, but always stopped herself. Firstly, Stacey's anger was justified. Perhaps Megan should have confided in her back in the delivery room. Stacey might even have approved of the plan, desperate as she was for the inheritance. Knowing the truth about the baby's origins could have prevented the haematology test revelation. Secondly, Megan feared learning bad news about the boy. She couldn't bear more guilt. Her burden was already too heavy. She needed to focus on surviving for Abby's sake. Everything was for Abby now. Karen, Haley and Arthur sat in a cafe. The boys chatted, smiling and swinging their feet in sync. Karen marvelled at their resemblance and the invisible bond between them. Finally, she decided to ask some clarifying questions. "Arthur, where are your parents?" "I only have a mother," the boy replied, his mood darkening. "But she doesn't love me." Karen's heart squeezed with pity for the child. There was so much confidence and pain in his words. "I don't know why she doesn't.
I try so hard. I swam the best for her, got first place in swimming, and I get A's from preschool. She praises me, but she doesn't care. And now there's more. Now she's decided to put me in an orphanage."
"What do you mean?" Karen was surprised.
"Just like that. She thought I didn't hear anything, but I heard her talking to them on the phone. They were supposed to come and get me. That's why I ran away."
"So you ran away from home?"
"Yeah, so they wouldn't put me in an orphanage. I know it's bad there. Everyone fights. The teachers hit. I've seen it in movies and cartoons. I don't want to go there. I don't want to be beaten."
"Wait." Karen tried to calm the child down. "Why did you think that you would be sent to an orphanage? You must have misunderstood."
"My mother never loved me," Arthur repeated stubbornly, staring at one point. "Sometimes I even think I'm not her own."
"Why do you think that?"
"We don't look anything alike, and I don't look like Dad. I've seen pictures of him, and mothers love their own children, but not me."
Karen wanted to hug that poor boy. His voice held so much pain, so much resentment, so much misunderstanding.
"And recently my grandmother has fallen out of love with me. I don't know why. She used to come to me all the time, give me presents. She used to take me with her. We'd go out, we'd travel, and then she cut me off."
"It's strange." Haley joined the conversation. "It is strange," confirmed Karen. "Is this boy telling the truth, or is he deceiving, playing on their trust?" Karen knew that many children who run away from home have rich imaginations and the gift of persuasion. Maybe Arthur's like that. He appeals to pity, so they'll feed him, and then he disappears like a breeze. When he gets hungry again, he'll find another family and tell them his story. But what about this incredible resemblance? What about the dreams? Or maybe it's her wishful thinking. She still can't get over Adrian's death, so she sees her son in any boy who looks like him, presumably similar. Karen didn't get a good look at her firstborn son. "We need additional information. Arthur, what are you going to do next?" Karen asked. "You can't just wander around like this all the time. What about school? And then you have to sleep somewhere, eat something. Maybe I should take you to your mum. I'll explain everything to her. She won't be angry, I promise. She's probably worried by now."
"Not to her,"
the boy said tensely. It seemed that with one wrong move he would bolt.
"She's going to put me in an orphanage, I heard. She thought I was small, didn't understand anything. My mum got a doctor to diagnose me like I was crazy. And then I'll be sent to a special orphanage for crazy people like me. I don't want to go there. I'm scared."
Tears came to the boy's eyes. It was obvious that he was confused and frightened, and really did not know what to do. "It's horrible." Karen's hand flew to her heart. The words of a small child made her heart grow cold. "But isn't there any adult you can trust?"
"There's no one. I used to think Grandma was such an adult, but she and Mum had a big fight and now Grandma won't even see me. I don't know why. I'm not the one who had a fight with her. Maybe my mum told her I was crazy and she believed it."
"What about neighbours, acquaintances, teachers, coaches?"
"You think they'd believe me?"
Arthur grinned bitterly and maturely. Karen realised that the boy was right. She herself believed him, with difficulty because, well, he did tell some incredible stories. If it weren't for the boy's resemblance to Haley, and most importantly, if it weren't for those dreams in which she saw her son, and he was exactly like Arthur, one and the same, Karen would have taken the child to the police long ago, so they could find his mother. "Listen, Haley and I are going to the toy store. Come with us. We'll buy you something too if you like."
"I don't need toys, but I'll go for a walk with you with pleasure."
Karen took Arthur and Haley by the hands and walked with them through the park. At this moment, she felt completely happy and peaceful. The woman had forgotten that it was possible to feel like this. Arthur felt familiar and close, very understandable. Karen could read his thoughts, understand what he was feeling, just like with Haley. It was spectacular. Karen spoke with the children. They laughed a lot, joked. People looked at them with smiles. It must have been nice to see such a happy trio. Of course, Karen was thinking about what to do next. Something had to be decided. Arthur was in danger, but she still couldn't think of a way out. So for now, she just enjoyed the company of the two children. Karen decided that after the walk, Arthur would go to their house. The children would watch cartoons with pizza and cocoa, and she would have a serious talk with her husband. Tom would understand her, especially when he sees Arthur. He'll see how much he looks like Haley. Her husband always understood her, especially before the tragic events. So it'll work out now. If this rich mum wants to get rid of her son so much that she's ready to write a diagnosis, let her give him to them. Of course, Arthur can't be their Adrian. Their son died immediately after childbirth. A baby. He even has a grave. Karen came here sometimes, of course, but then she felt empty and numb for a long time. So Arthur is just a boy, very much like Haley. A child with a complicated fate. He needs loving parents, caring adults, and they need him. Tom wanted a second child. Karen is afraid to give birth again, and so Haley will have a twin brother, as nature intended. Arthur said that he also recently turned 7, and that in the fall he should go to school. So they will be together, sit at the same desk. Relatives and friends might not understand. What does she and Tom care about that? The main thing is that they will have a son. This thought filled Karen with energy and joy. Only, of course, Karen realized that it was unlikely everything would be so easy for them. There's Arthur's mum. Perhaps she wasn't going to put the boy in an orphanage for sick children. Maybe the kid just misunderstood everything. And even if it was true, how do you go to the boy's mum and start a conversation? Hello, I'm here about your unwanted and unloved son, whom you want to diagnose and put in an orphanage. Let's give him to us instead. Nonsense. The boy's mother won't even talk to her. I'm thirsty, suddenly reminded Haley. Mum, buy me a drink, and I'll buy Arthur one too. Yes, I'm thirsty too, the boy modestly admitted. Well, before the toy store, we'll go in the grocery store. Karen smiled at the children. She liked to feel like a mother of 2, a boy and a girl. They entered the grocery store. Arthur chose water for himself, Haley a lemonade. There was no line. The woman behind the cash register scrutinized the trio. She reminded Karen of someone. Nature had blessed her with an excellent memory for faces, though the context of where she'd seen them usually escaped her. Karen? The cashier exhaled as she handed over bottles. Is this really you? Well, yes, Karen nodded. My name is Karen. Do we know each other? Are these your kids? The boy. You found him after all, didn't you? God, I'm so happy. You have no idea. Tears glistened in the cashier's eyes, her lips trembling. Karen was completely bewildered. The children stared at the cashier in confusion. I think you must have me confused with someone else, Karen said, shaking her head. She wished they could finish their shopping and leave. The saleswoman seemed odd, perhaps unstable. She was frightening the children. Are they both your kids? The cashier persisted. Yes, Haley suddenly declared proudly. We're twins. Karen understood her daughter's response. She too wanted people to see them as just that, a mother and her 2 children. Karen, we need to talk. Why don't the kids play in the ball pit? I don't mind, chirped Haley. Arthur nodded quietly. The children, holding hands, ran towards the huge pool filled with colourful balls. The saleswoman stepped out from behind the register and approached Karen. "Let's sit on that bench over there. It's better for talking." "All right," Karen agreed, though understanding nothing. A cold, sticky fear crept into her stomach. Something about the cashier felt unsettling, despite her attractive appearance and friendly tone. "You didn't recognize me," the cashier stated as they settled onto the comfortable bench. "I'm the doctor who delivered your baby 7 years ago." "Ah!" Karen breathed. Now she remembered why the woman's face had seemed familiar. "All these years I've been tormented by what I did," Dr. West continued. "I kept remembering your eyes, black with grief. I thought about your baby. I'm so glad you found each other. I just wish I knew how it happened." "What do you mean? That boy is your son, isn't he?" "Actually, no," Karen admitted. "I met him on the street. The child was in a difficult situation, and honestly, I'm at a loss." "It's Arthur, isn't it?" said Dr. West. "I couldn't be mistaken. I've been monitoring Stacy's social networks all this time. I wanted to make sure the boy was all right." "Yes, he said his name was Arthur, and his mother's name is Stacy," Karen confirmed. "So you know him? You know his parents?" Dr. West's knowledge was unsettling. Thoughts whirled through her head like startled birds. Karen had sensed immediately that Arthur wasn't a stranger to her, but it had been purely intuitive, and now here was Dr. West. "Karen, I can't understand how Arthur ended up on the street. He's usually well cared for, and I'm even more amazed that you somehow found each other." "If you knew how surprised I am by all this." "I don't understand any of it." "I'll tell you everything. I need to clear my conscience, and you need the truth. It's not an easy truth. It will change your whole family's life, but it can't stay hidden any longer." And Dr. West told Karen everything, about her daughter's illness, about the desperation that drove an otherwise honest person to commit a terrible act, about the babies being switched. Karen listened intently, hanging on every word. Indeed, her world was transforming before her eyes. It was scary, painful, and heart-rending, yet also joyful. Adrian was alive, healthy and beautiful. He was here, with her now. His name was Arthur now, but that was all right. It was a good name, like a king's. Arthur and Haley. "You can sue me now," Dr. West said, lowering her eyes. "I deserve it. I'm ready for it. My confession will help establish Arthur as your legal son. I'll tell them everything, exactly how it happened. I'll accept whatever punishment I deserve. My sister will take care of Abby. I've considered this possibility for a long time. As for proving kinship, it's simple now with DNA analysis." Karen stood dazed, in near shock. Yet somehow she felt joy. Tom and Arthur sat on the pier, their feet dangling in the water as they fished. Behind them, Haley and Karen played badminton. The family was enjoying their time at a tourist resort. Since Tom couldn't take summer vacation, they'd rented a weekend cottage outside the city. It was perfect. Arthur had joined their lives as if he'd always been there. By fall, the leading proceedings were complete, and Arthur officially became Karen and Tom's son. Dr. West avoided prison after Karen herself requested leniency for the doctor. Her petition succeeded. Surprisingly, Karen understood and forgave Dr. West. Yet this woman had caused her and her family tremendous pain. Arthur, too, bore his own trauma. Growing up with an unloving, rejecting woman had left its mark. Then came the orphanage incident. Stacy had already arranged for a false diagnosis. Unable and unwilling to raise someone else's child, she'd planned to start fresh, without the boy. She found she couldn't simply abandon him at an orphanage, but his medical condition would make it different. So Stacy took the familiar route, bribing doctor and paying off the right people. The clever boy pieced things together, from what he overheard, and figured out the rest, leading to his escape. He knew once he entered that boarding house for sick children, there'd be no return. By fortune's grace, Arthur met Haley in the park, and everything worked out in the right way. Arthur's joyful cry broke the Sunday morning silence. "Well done, my champion," Tom praised his son.
"Haley and I will put him in the aquarium, right, Mum? It's just a little carp."
"As you wish," Karen gestured.
"Let's put it in,"
the twins exclaimed together. Tom and Karen exchanged smiles. They still marvelled at how their children often spoke or acted in unison. Twins, son and daughter, Arthur and Haley.